Hello, I'm going to talk about baby boomers. I'm a Gen X myself. Now, there's a lot of discussion here and there about the different generations and uh, what they may have done to affect future generations. And I don't really want to buy into that too much. You know, every generation has had its challenges, but there is one area in which I think the baby boomers are culpable, and that is that they were the last generation that was really raised in the Christian tradition. When they were young, their parents always would have taken them to church. The churches after the Second World War were still very strong, very well attended. They ran a lot of the sports activities. There was a lot of social activities connected to the church, and the baby boomers would have been all raised within a church framework. Not all, but large proportions of them would have been raised within a church framework or with some connection to a church. Now, so I think if they're culpable for anything, it's for the fact that they stopped teaching their children about Christianity and about God. They did not take their own children to churches. They walked away from the churches. The churches are now, apart from Pentecostal churches, are now largely empty. There's a lot of empty church buildings. There's a few older baby boomers that still attend, and their children are largely ignorant about Christianity and the message of Christianity. And there's a lot of confusion now, and even sort of derision of Christianity through this misunderstanding. Now, how you can take a message of love that comes from Christianity and the message of forgiveness, the message of forgiving your enemies, which Jesus did on the cross, how on earth you can take that as anything hateful, such as people have sort of put on messages such as that sent out by Israel Folau, baffles me. And it just indicates a complete ignorance of the Christian message, and the idea that modern generations, like Generation Y onwards, don't seem to understand that it was Christians who used to defend homosexuals, etc., by saying, love the person, hate the sin. So now that the world adores what was once the sin of homosexuality, that fact that it was Christians who used to defend homosexuals has been forgotten. And they don't understand that Christians can say they don't like a behaviour. They think that means you hate the person. Well, that's not true in Christianity. You can not like a behaviour and you can still love the person. So the idea that, if you send out, anti homosexual messages that you hate gays, that you're homophobic, is just completely in error, a complete misunderstanding. I mean, I have children. My son, he does lots of behaviours that I find quite atrocious. He's only a young boy, but he lies constantly. He's quite violent to his siblings. These are all behaviours that I say are wrong, but I love him. I love him very dearly, and so do all of his family. So you clearly can say you don't like behaviours and love someone, just as every parent probably experiences. So the idea that you say I don't agree with homosexuality, I don't agree with an LGBT agenda, does not mean you hate homosexuals or people who are LGBT. So, but this misunderstanding, I think, all comes back to the fact that the younger generations don't understand Christianity. They don't understand its message of love. They don't understand its morality, and I lay the blame of that somewhat reluctantly at the feet of the baby boomers, and to be honest, Gen Xers, who also have not taught their children about God. I mean, this is in direct contradiction to the fourth commandment, which is shall remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, and in a sense, it's also a breaking of the sixth commandment, you must not commit murder. And by this I don't mean physical murder, I mean murder of the spirit. We have a couple of generations now, Generation Y and the Millennium generation, that are working around murdered in the spirit because they do not understand and cannot accept the Christian message because they're uneducated, put it that way. Uneducated in the sense of Plato, where he says that education is about understanding what is beautiful and what beauty is and what is good. So they're uneducated and they lack wisdom in that sense about what is good and what is evil, which is the fundamentals of wisdom. So there is an indictment placed against the baby boomer and to some degree against the Gen X generation for allowing their children to grow up in this ignorance and creating problems not only for society but more importantly for the spiritual development of the Gen Y and the millennial generations and their children, no doubt. All right, so thank you for listening. Bye-bye.